Male fantasy authors need to just start going to therapy before they write books, man. If I have to read one more male main character who's a brooding intellectual with daddy issues, I'm done. I'm done with fantasy. Hi, and welcome back to Orbiting the Shelf. As always, I'm Matt, you're the audience, and today we're talking about The Bloodless Queen by Joshua Phillip Johnson. 2025 has been a disappointing year for new releases. There've been a couple gems here and there that I was super excited to get into and read and review, and believe me when I say I hate doing bad reviews. I love doing good reviews, and when I first started the channel, I thought I was going to be one of those guys who wasn't credible because I only do good reviews, only for 2025 to turn me into a fuck piece of shit. I promise I don't like doing these, but jumping right into it, hold on a second. Are you not subscribed and liked to my channel? Are you watching this off the search bar and you're not even gonna bother to look down here? Like and subscribe. Do it, pussy. You won't. I dare you. Nah, I'm just kidding. But like and subscribe if you want to. It really helps. I'm a small channel in a small niche, so every single one of you guys matters, and I love hearing from you guys. I won't bore you with the big subscribe skit today. I've had a couple of lunch beers, and I'm ready to just jump into it. As always, this is my subjective scale. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I rate books on a 1 through 10 basis. 1, worst book I've ever read, detriment to the genre. 10, best book I've ever read, changed my life, my outlook, blah, blah, blah. 5, directly in the middle, don't be too harsh on 5s. 85% of content across any medium is somewhere in the 4, 5, and 6 zone. These aren't like bad reviews. You know, average is fine. I can only hope that at the bare minimum, someday everybody thinks my book is average. I would really, that's best outcome for me personally. So don't be too hard on 5s. Don't let it dissuade you. Jumping right into it, what did I rate this book? Spoiler-free review. You don't want to read the back. You want to go in blind. You don't want to know anything about this book before you jump into it. I don't blame you. This is how I go into most of my books. I gave this book a 4 out of 10. I know. They don't boo me. Don't boo me. I already know I'm going to be kind of in the minority here, all right? But if that's all you need to know, you don't want to know anything else, go ahead, click off the video. I promise there's not going to be any spoilers, really. And then come back, let me know your thoughts once you've finished it. Am I right? Am I wrong? Etc., etc. But if you're like me and you care mostly about audiobooks, I also do the audiobook review, which is separate from the book review itself. I would have given this audiobook a strong A-. It was good. The voice actor was good. His female voice was alright, his little girl voice was alright, the sound quality was fine. It's not really like an experience. You're not going to get anything different out of the audiobook than you are the written word. It's not like a crazy performance. I mean, you're gonna get the same vibes reading it than you are listening to it. But if you're like me and you prefer to consume your books via audiobook, then it was fine. You're not going to regret it, quality-wise, that is. I, however, don't really recommend the book that strongly. So, once again, if that's all you need to know, I bless you on your journey, Godspeed, come back and tell me what you thought about it later. Now, jumping right into the deep end, things I liked. The book had a cool premise, right? It had a cool premise. A lot of the ideas in it were cool. A lot of the characters in it were nifty. It had a lot going for it in concept. I think the author's world building was pretty interesting. He kind of delivered it in like a super underwhelming way and way too often, and that's coming from somebody who loves epic fantasy, hard sci-fi. World building is my shit, dump exposition on me, but I was a little bit underwhelmed here. So those are the things I liked. Very short, very brief list. I liked this book on paper, just not literally on paper. Haha, so those are all the things I liked. Lots of cool ideas, a little bit of a failed execution here. Jumping into the things I didn't like, this list is a little bit longer, to say the least. Number 1, the opening chapter. The opening chapter was so bad, I almost DNF'd it. I was rolling around in my bed at like 11 o'clock at night, groaning and cringing to myself while my wife was in bed reading with me, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, this is like the most 2015 D&D Tumblr OC coded shit I've ever read. This is next level band kid power fantasy cringe. That nerd who gets bullied for like running down the hallway Naruto style and playing the saxophone. It's like he wrote a manifesto of his OC and posted it to Tumblr and just had absolutely no editing whatsoever. The first chapter was horrendous, not just in vibe or themes, but in execution too. One thing the author really likes to do that will be prevalent throughout the entire book, and I'll bitch about a lot, is like saying things double or triple to get a point across. If there's a strong emotion or something that needs to be conveyed strongly, he doesn't trust you to just get it. He doesn't deliver it to you subtly. He will tell you. There's no showing. There's never any showing in this book. He'll tell you. And in fact, one of the first lines that really bothered me was on like page 1 or 2, and he goes, 1,000,000, a billion billion. Like, brother, I get it. Like, there's a lot of things. You don't have to say 1,000,000, a billion billion. If you want to convey a sense of like cosmic horror or dread or like overwhelming spookiness, there are better ways to go about it than just repeating the same word a bunch of times. I get it. You've done a good job setting up the Fey realm as something scary, something mind-bending. I don't need to be constantly reminded by you showing me so blatantly. 1,000,000, a billion billion, fear, fear, fear. Like, brother, I get it. You can deliver this message in ways that aren't so grating. Also, there's a little bit of a plot hole. And when I say plot hole, I don't mean things that like unwind the story, like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Nazis would have opened the Ark of the Covenant and all died, so Indiana Jones being there didn't even mean anything. I don't mean plot holes like that. I mean plot holes as in there's like logic gaps in the characters. And the most jarring one is in the very beginning. We open up on a character named Arthur. And Arthur, and not really a spoiler, literally first page, but if you don't want to hear it, click away, I totally understand. Arthur is like one of the most powerful fencers ever. His prime number is 2, he's super cocky, he's super good at his job, and the author hammers it home to you how powerful Arthur is, how much this job as a fencer means to him, how seriously he takes it, but then we also get the information that he didn't read his briefings, he's not aware of the rules surrounding the Fae, he's not aware of like how they work or how they operate. He has no regard for his other fencers. And these things are kind of in contrast, especially because he works for a government agency. And as somebody who used to work for a government agency, that's not how that works. You're not allowed to skip briefings. You're not allowed to be too cool for school, especially if you're like a frontline boots on the ground type of infantryman, special ops fighter like the fencers are. You're not allowed to just be like, no thanks, sir. I don't use my safety. My trigger finger is my safety. Like, Black Hawk Down reference, if you remember that. There's no such thing as too cool for schools, these environments, and somebody who cares about their job that much as a master of their craft that you set them up to be, they wouldn't do that in the first place. There's this huge logic gap right in the beginning of Arthur being an absolute stud, but also someone who doesn't show up to briefings, know his enemy's weaknesses, his enemy's strengths, and doesn't give a fuck about his team. So there's already this like huge disconnect in the first character in this opening chapter, and I know what you're gonna say. Oh, but Matt, he wrote Arthur to be like arrogant and condescending and too cool for school. It doesn't make sense in this context, and it doesn't make sense with how you build the character up as this overwhelming force of nature government agent and how he acts with his team. It just doesn't make sense. Huge plot hole in my mind. The first chapter is one of the worst first chapters I've ever read. Also, like, the audiobook chapters are wrong. They're like 4 chapters ahead of the actual chapters in the book. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it was just a glitch in my Audible, but I don't think it was because I tried it across multiple devices. Anyways, I yield. I close my case. Also, shameless exposition dumps. This will happen throughout the whole book, but it's especially apparent in the first couple of chapters. And don't get me wrong, I love exposition. I love world building. I love knowing all the nitty-gritty details about the world you have set me in as a reader. But every fucking conversation, every scene, every little fight, the author sees it as a way to dump exposition into every waking moment of this book. You'll be halfway through a fight scene, and as someone's blade hits a Fey monster, the narrator will cut away and be like, Character 1 chops through the hair of the Fey monster and into its soft flesh. Did you know in the 1990s, a popular hair brand used Fey to model their hair products? They faced a lot of backlash and it shut down 10 years later. Like, okay, why did you interrupt this fight to tell me this? That's not even useful world building. Like, it's not even fun exposition dumping. You're not telling me anything. And that happens all the time. Like, I wish I had written down every single time because the hair thing is real. I'm not lying about that there. And I don't know, they'll be in the middle of like a debriefing where they're learning something important about the Fae. You're getting an exposition dump disguised as like a team debriefing, which, whatever, that's fine. You know, I'll let it slide. That's how you're supposed to mask exposition dumps. But you get exposition dumps in your exposition dumps. Randomly, one of the characters will be like, oh, I remember a poem I read one time, which makes me think about this Fae, which makes me think about this one time a fencer went rogue and did this thing, and the world had these consequences because of it. And then the narrator snaps you right back into the briefing exposition dump. It's like exposition dump Inception. Like I'm the guy with the f***ing quarter spinning it on my desk, waiting to see if I'm in an exposition dump inside an exposition dump inside an exposition dump. But then something cool catches my eye and I look away. The quarter never stops spinning because I never left the f***ing exposition dump. It's crazy. Let me rest, but move the story along, please. And that brings me into my third complaint, right? This book was way too f***ing long. There was no reason for it to be like a 16-hour audiobook, and then Kindle, I buy the book in both forms, and I consume both for the sake of these reviews. Kindle said the average reading time was like 9.5 to 10 hours for most people. If I had to guess, I'd probably say it's in the realm of like 90 to 100,000 words, but I'm horrible at guessing these things. I don't even know how long my own books are by the time I'm done writing them. And 90% of this book's length is exposition dumps. There is just simply no reason for this book to be this long. You could easily cut out like 70% of all the exposition dumping in this book, and it would probably shrink the novel to about 55 to 60,000 words, and it would be way more enjoyable. The pacing would be way better. This whole book takes course over the like 4 days, I want to say. Like, they don't give you an exact number of like, go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep, wake up, but it feels like 3 or 4 days. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was months. It's so hard to tell. Either way, it doesn't, the time passage in this book feels wonky. It could be 3 days, it could be months, I don't know. But this is all just to say the book is way too long. And then the pacing is something I see in all of the other reviews, because I usually look on Goodreads to see just how big of a contrarian I'm being before I post these. And the amount of 5 stars and 4 stars is crazy. Y'all are way too generous across every book, even the books I love, but whatever. And even the 5-star glazing reviews from influencers who get paid to give good reviews, because I'm on to you. I know y'all are f***ing lying. There's no way every single book you review, you're like, thanks to NetGalley for this arc, thanks to Orbit for this arc, and then you just so happen to give them all 5 stars. You're getting paid and I know it. I just can't prove it.
Problem though, Jake, you got no witnesses. Who your fucking witnesses, huh? Roger? Smiley? You think my troops are gonna help you? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
That aside, even the 5-star reviews on Goodreads from people are like, oh, I loved this book, it's the best book of all time, but the pacing was awful. And I'm like, so it's not 5 stars. That's like one of the most important things is pacing. It's like story, pacing, all the other How was it 5 stars if the pacing was so bad? All of this is just to say the pacing was absolute dog. Thing I don't like, number 4, whatever I'm on. Furthering my distaste for this book is swearing. This is super common with a lot of modern authors. They want their book to feel modern, and they want it to feel edgy, and they want this world to feel kind of dark and grim. And most of the authors who write in this vein of fantasy are millennials, and that sort of like band kid, edgy millennial humor dialogue is pervasive. It makes its way into everything. And so a lot of these millennial authors use swears, like way too much and like way unnecessarily. And I'm not like some old lady clutching my pearls. I literally have to cut out half my videos because I'm such a sailor mouth degenerate. But your characters don't have to swear all the time and in goofy sounding places like a child to make your book sound edgier. And on top of that, character swearing, whatever. If that's your character and that's just who they are, fine, totally get it, whatever, that's valid. But the narrator swears. The narrator swears. He'll just randomly say at like weird times to convey to you how edgy this book is. And this book feels like one of those books where the author didn't really do any research into like how government agencies exist, how operators exist, how people in these special communities who do this special violent service exist. Because in no world would these and he makes it very clear they're highly valuable, highly paid, they have a lot of power socially, metaphysically, otherwise, right? Like one of them has like an assistant who just gives them takeout. And he specifically states how that they have like bodyguards like the president because they're so valuable to the government and they're so dangerous and so highly trained. But then the fence dancers in this book operate like some third world special forces unit. They drive around in a truck responding to calls on their cell phones. And on top of that, how are they providing this like incredibly physically intense service to this community? And they're all like fat and old. And I'm not being biased. I'm fat and old and bald, like I'm out of shape, but I used to live in that world, so I know what goes into it. The author explicitly states one is like a fat 45-year-old soccer mom, and it's like a point he makes to like tell you how goofy and like out of shape these characters are. And I can only suspend my disbelief so far in areas where like humanity is concerned, right? Aside from their primacy that only shows up during the equinoxes or whatever, they're just normal people. Their physical fitness matters. How are they doing battle with like 3 back-flipping monstrous super-powered fae? And if they're so valuable, why are they using like a Ford F-150 to get around? And why are they using axes and knives? Like, why are you using a little Viking knife? Why use a gun? What the f? See, there's never a good reason for anything in this book. I love cool shit. The rule of cool supersedes all, in my opinion. But you have to give me a reason for it. Is there a reason they're using triangle shield things? Is there a reason they're using knives? Is there a reason they're allowed to be so out of shape? Is there a reason they're such a coveted resource who's highly guarded and has all this power and funding, but they're driving a truck and using cell phones? If you want them to use katanas, that's badass, but like, give me a reason that's believable. And if you want to make a superhero out of like a fat 40-year-old mom, because the author I'm not being mean. The author states she's fat, and he states she's out of shape and 40. If you're gonna make a superhero out of her, cool, but why not make it believable? Like, if you're gonna ask me to suspend my disbelief, give me a reason to suspend it. Like, she has superpowers that show up once a week for like a job that is world-ending if they don't succeed, as told by you, the author. What's going on here? Like, I don't know, tell me that their primacies give them like superhuman abilities outside of their powers, so they don't have to hit the gym. They don't have to be held to the physical standards that real life operators are. Like, give me something to buy into here. Otherwise, make your characters more believable. And this applies to fantasy. You have to give the readers a reason to suspend disbelief. I'm not just being a hater here. I write a lot of stupid shit. I read a lot of stupid shit, but I hold everything to the same standard. And this is what I mean by it doesn't feel like the author did any research, because this fantasy book is so grounded in the real world as we know it and the real government as we know it, that this is just not how these things would work. All right, these like god tier like agency operators would have like, oh well, they're fairies, so they have to use iron. Cool, fucking bullets, my man. Put some iron in there. It's a fantasy book. Make him like an iron composite or something. But like, give me a reason why people in the 21st century aren't just using guns. Whatever, I yield. This is why I say it's like Tumblr OC fanfiction level writing. Not a lot grounds this story. It's fantasy. You still have to give the reader a way to buy into these things. My next complaint, I've lost count, whatever, maybe you know. Evangelene is kind of like the big trump card in this book. And we are constantly told, Evangelene is so powerful. Evangelene is gonna be like the big deal in this book. You know, her primacy is like pretty big, and she's the new star because like the most powerful person got removed. Or maybe Evangelene was always the most powerful. I don't know. That was just briefly touched on, the person who left. Anyways, the author hypes up Evangelene's privacy to no end. So you're like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. Shocker, it's not. He makes us wait like 3/4 of the book to finally tell us what Evangelene's primacy is. And guess how he reveals it? She blinds an old lady in a church.
What the hell are you doing?
Pocket sand.
That's the big reveal. She blinds a lady. She just blinds some old bitch in a church because she gets caught stealing data on like an op. But like, you're gonna make me wait 3/4 of the book after hammering home how cool Evangelene is, and then the big reveal is her blinding an old lady? Wow. Okay, cool. The next thing, sort of related to what I've already talked about. The author really wants to drive home how strange the Fey world is, and he does a good job at this, laying the groundwork in the beginning, and you, the reader, definitely get the picture. It's impossible to miss. He hammers it home so hard through so much exposition. Literally every scene, it's like a Skyrim loading scene, right? You play the game, the fencers go from point A to point B, they get an exposition dump debriefing, they read an exposition dump book, and in between every single scene is like a Skyrim loading screen where it's like, Fey are weird, Fey are really strong, Fey are strange, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, I don't need exposition dumps everywhere. I can't tell you how pervasive it is. It's like off-putting how often you get them. And still the author doesn't trust you to get the point. Even once they like go deep into the harbor and the story is sort of progressing, you get to a part where the story starts to crescendo and the author still doesn't trust you to get the point of the book. And we spend like a page between every single action talking about how weird the Fae are, how strange they are, and he gets super wrapped up in like this repetition where he'll be like, they're doing this while the bad guy does this, and in between these two very simple points, he'll go, and then the fairy queen was a river, and now she's a snake, and now she's everything all at once, and now she's a bunch of rocks, and now she's a star, and the world is swirling. And
have you ever had a dream that you could do?
I'm like, okay, I don't need all that information between these two little beats, all right? Like, continue the scene, please, bro. You don't have to tell me about every single tree turning into weird shit and how they're having a hard time comprehending it. Like, you've told me. Stop telling me. And then, you know, I'm just bitching now, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But just some like general prose and line complaints. I don't know what it is in 2025. I swear to God, agents are selling these books to editors, and then the editors don't fucking edit them at all. Because like, my shit sucks. Like, I'm the biggest hater for myself ever. Even I can catch shit like, right, so doubling up on words, doubling up on descriptors, huge branch and huge trees. So there's a line where it's like, the trees are huge, Arthur keeps walking. The branches are huge, and that happens a lot. Like, he forgets to like put variations in his descriptors or his adjectives, and this author will like repeat a lot. So in the same sort of paragraph, right, line 1, sentence 1 will have the descriptor huge, and then line 2 will have the descriptor huge. Fast forward another couple paragraphs, the descriptor like maddening will be in sentence 2, and then it'll appear again in sentence 4, and it kind of trips up the reader and takes them out of the immersion, and it doesn't flow. So when reviewers or authors or whoever talk about prose and sentence structure, this is what they mean. Does it flow? Does it kind of sound like poetry or lyrics in your head? Is it smooth? Does it like evoke emotion and imagery? And this is an issue in this book, because there's those, and then the constant being ripped out of the moment. It's really hard to get immersed into this book. So overall, the idea was really good. The execution was just awful. I think this dude's, or they, whatever they go by, I think their agent failed them. I think their editor failed them. And admittedly, if this were a debut author putting forth their first work, I would have given this a lot of mercy, and I probably would have called it a 6. But I went, you know what? This sounds like debut work. I bet this is this author's first novel. So I go back and look. Dude's written like 3 fantasy books and poetry and other things. I think he has like 7 total published works or something like that. So I don't feel too bad being harsh. I feel like you probably should have been able to clean up your act as an author by now. If you can't edit your own books to a certain level of proficiency before you put them out into the world, I really don't know what you're doing, because this would have been okay work for a debut author. And once again, my books are fucking terrible. What do I know? My opinions are subjective. But I just thought it was bad. You know, the only thing keeping it from being a 3 is that I was interested in the world. I was interested in the, like, lore. I was kind of interested in the characters. In fact, I probably look like the metalhead character, with, like, the one tuft of hair right here. Lots of, like, aging punks in this book. The millennialness of this book really comes through. Like, every character is, like, a millennial stereotype of some sort. We got, like, aging, edgy soccer mom who smokes. We got, like, 2 different different like metalhead punk dudes with like silly hair and who swear a lot. We got like the millennial kid with daddy issues who is like a brooding academic who just needs to prove to the world how smart he is. And then we have his like black cat archetype wife who like definitely wears the pants and like speaks for him because he's afraid of confrontation. I don't know this author, but I would guarantee this dude is like mid-30s to early 40s, heavy millennial influence. I don't know why that doesn't really come through with like boomers, Gen X or Gen Z, but like millennial works of art, you can feel the millennial coming off of it. And I'm an older Gen Z, like my bald head would make you think otherwise. I've lived a hard fucking life. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know, just a weird thought. Like I say, these reviews are subjective. If you love it, I'm super happy for you. It's not bad in the form that like the art is bad. It's just not my fucking thing. And I think some of the components within the art are weak. And the only reason I don't give it a 3 is because 3 is reserved for like trash. Like that's where trash starts. 1's a detriment to society, 2 and 3 are trash, 4 is just below average, right? This is just slightly below average. And I think if this author honed his skills, whatever they prefer, I don't know, I didn't read the author bio, but all of like the interviews and shit say him, his, he, so whatever, feels like he goes by masculine pronouns. If he honed his craft, hired a good editor, and cut out all of the bloat, I think this book could have been a 7.5 or an 8. The beginning is weak, the middle is really saggy, and the ending doesn't quite hit as hard as he wanted it to, for sure. It was really hard to invest in these characters, so at the end of the book, when the big thing happens, I was like, you know? I don't really think any of the characters had much of an arc. I don't think there was much development. It was kind of just like, sad guy, intellectual with daddy issues, ends the book, a sad guy, intellectual with daddy issues. His daughter, who is a child, ends the book, a child. His wife, who's like aloof but kind of emotionally healthy, ends the book aloof but kind of emotionally healthy. There's only one small twist. The most character development comes from a side character, and as you know, it's like 101 type shit. Character drives story. There weren't any arcs to care about here. Off the bat, page 1, we start at this guy's dad's funeral, and he's sort of dealing with grief. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm being very vague. That grief, that journey, it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really lead anywhere. It's kind of like a nifty detail. This book feels like a cool story for the sake of being a cool story, and it's missing a lot and filled with a lot of bloat. However, I just thought of something I would like to praise. Calling out Ronald Reagan's legacy and how detrimental it was on the US population and the world at large was pretty cool, done in a fantasy setting. And I want to say that like the Fae book written by like the crazy math dude was based on a real book in the real world. I forget what it was, like The Bell Curve or Atlas Shrugged or Brave New World or something. Brave New World might not be it, but there was some like book that like racist people really loved back in like the 1940s or 1950s that like justified racism and colonization, and there was like a movie almost adapted about it. I forget what it is, man. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it was like a book that was super influential over US politics, and it was like kind of racist, kind of weird, somewhere in between like The Bell Curve and Ayn Rand. I wish for the life of me I can't remember what that book is, but that's what the Fae book kind of reminded me of. But yeah, I'm disappointed that this book didn't hit as hard as it could have, because I was this close to liking it multiple times. I finished it fast, and I was always on the edge of my seat, like, oh, is it about to get good? Are we about to take off? Am I about to start caring? And ultimately it never hit, and then it kind of just got more and more disappointing. And aside from that, the literary landscape we live in, I've never seen tropes be so important and such a selling point. I really truly think this book would have benefited also from an original monster, an original species, whatever you want to call it. I get that the author probably has like an inclination towards like Fae and the seasonal equinoxes and stuff, but I think you could have kept that concept, what you were inspired by, and replaced the monster, because the usage of Fae is so overdone and such an immediate turnoff for anybody who's not like a Gen Z Zodiac girl or like rock and crystal obsessed like millennial millennial witch ladies, and the presence of fae in the book, I think, hinders it rather than lifts it up. I think an original monster would have done great things for this book, because they're not really actually fairies or fae. They're like body horror zombies with kinda magical powers, and then there's like the giant monster who hangs out in the different groves around the world. Fae really had like nothing to do with this outside of the poetry the author used referencing real life. I don't know. I feel like you could have just changed the name, done a little switcheroo, changed the name in the poems, or I don't know, made connections to the Fae, to whatever original monster you wanted to wake up. All in all, this is just to say, I think going with Fae was a weak choice, but I understand kind of why the author did it, because like I was saying, the literary landscape right now with agents and editors and publishers is one that they want a list of selling points based on current tropes. 80% of agents right now are just like reading the first sentence of every book in their slush pile and looking for like commercial hook, lots of tropes. They don't give a fuck if the book is good or bad. They want a list of tropes they can sell to an editor, and then they want to like spam these books through the pipeline and just hope they land on the next Fourth Wing or ACOTAR or next big commercial hit, because these books don't have to be good. Like, they just have to check a certain amount of tropes in the right order for modern readers to resonate with it, and it's easy to sell. So, you know, maybe he kept Fae in there for the sake of just like being easy to market to agents and editors, but I don't know. It just fell flat. It fell flat for me on everything. But I'm done rambling. Thank you so much. If you made it to the end of this video, God bless you. I don't know how the fuck you did it, but those are my thoughts. As always, I've been Matt, you've been great, and I will see you next time. Bye.